go.
Invincible.
What a time to be alive. The 1203 is live again, Parker. How are you today?
Woo! Hey, I'm doing good. I got a new Hawaiian shirt, brand new from hawaiiandouchebag.com. Just came in the mail.
Please tell me that's a real website.
Oh, it's not. But I wish
Darn
it was. I should have just went with it. But no, I would shop there. You know, I'd be the best customer if that was a real website.
You'd be their top buyer for sure.
Oh yeah.
Welcome everybody to the 1203. If it's your first time tuning in, welcome to the show. You've come to the right place. This is If you're a reoccurring listener or reoccurring watcher, I forgot to put us on live. There we go. Fix that. Welcome back. We got the live on now. That's on me. Man, what a fun time. Welcome to 1203, the main podcast of Old Man Entertainment. If you're watching on YouTube, do us a favor, hit that subscribe. I feel like a big stream YouTuber now, telling people to hit the subscribe button. Make sure to drop a like if you're listening on Spotify or iTunes or whatever. Give us a review, hit us with a follow, whatever. It helps us grow. We really appreciate it. Man, this is going to be a great show. I'm really excited about today.
Yeah, I'm excited too, and I like the interaction with the fans. We're getting a lot of feedback, good and bad, some trolling, and we're even getting some friendly competition, which we'll talk about that, I'm sure, a little later in the show.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to get to that. We're actually going to start the show with some baseball talk. Baseball is officially back tomorrow. Now, Astros do not start their season until Friday, which is also Jess's birthday. So happy birthday, Jessica, coming up.
Happy birthday to her.
That'll be a fun day. But we're definitely going to get to some baseball today. We've got a little bit of a response to make today. We weren't exactly directly called out, but we also kind of were. So we're going to touch on that. It's going to be a good show. But to start things off, like we've talked about before, this is an experience-based podcast, is what we like to say, which means that we base this show not only off of sports and the things we love and care about, but we also like to talk about things happening in our lives. And Parker is getting ready to make a big jump in his life. In fact, this will be the last live show that you see with this background.
Yeah, I won't be in Webster anymore. I've been living, as you guys know my story, been living with my parents in a 3-bedroom apartment in Webster, Texas, just south of Houston. Lovely place, lovely apartment. I appreciate being here and the time spent here, but I'm getting my own place in Kerrville. I'm going to have my own podcast room set up, and it'll be nice. So the background will look a lot better, actually be more of a confined room, and I won't have interruptions. Won't have to turn my camera off a lot. Won't have to worry about the Wi-Fi going in and out, and just have a lot more time to myself and a lot more privacy. So the shows will be better. The content will be better on my end. And, of course, I can still call people in the Houston area if they want to do podcasts with me. They know my number. If we want to have a show, we can do that. You can just DM me on Twitter or whatever. We can still do shows on the phone. You don't have to be in person. But, yeah, it'll be nice to have my own little kind of getaway in Kerrville in the middle of the hill country where I can just kind of have my own little podcast room. I'm really excited about that.
And it's funny because that's one of the things we talked about being really excited about as far as Old Man Entertainment. Of course, that's our podcast network and blog. If you haven't checked out our blog, please do so. You can find the link on either of our Twitters. We also have a Twitter now. If you haven't seen that, Old Man Entertainment on Twitter. Old Man ENT, I believe, is the handle. So make sure you check that out. But one of the biggest things we talked about when we started this thing is the freedom that we're going to have with it. And that freedom is only going to get bigger when you get up to Kerrville and start bringing in some of that money. And, right now, of course, I'm paying for a lot of things because I'm working a full-time job, but you're about to be doing that yourself.
And nobody else is really helping. So you've done a lot. You've started it. You've got everything going. You got the song. You've done all the stuff for us. And the least I can do is pitch in a little bit of money once I get my first big paycheck towards the end of September. It'll be fun. Once we have a little bit more money, then we could do some more things. And who knows where the podcast and the Old Man Entertainment can grow from here. But I had a little motivation this morning looking at stuff because I was just looking at Barstool Sports, just, for fun, because I know where they started and where they are now. And that company's worth like $450 million now. And they had similar kind of dreams as we did, internet-based podcasting, just talking a lot of crap. I'm not saying that'll ever happen. I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm just saying the possibility of my entertainment being awesome and growing, it's endless. I mean, you Google Old Man Entertainment right now, we're top 2. I mean, I don't know. The first thing you look up is I think it actually shows the Old Man building in Texas State. I think the second one is Old Man Entertainment. It is our website. And it says the boys are back, Parker and Rhea. It actually has our names on there, so it's pretty cool. We're up there on Google. We're doing things, and it's just cool to see that Old Man Entertainment is something we thought of, and it actually could. It's the first thing I think that anybody that I've done that I actually had faith, because I know the guys who run it, you and me. I know we're not going to give up on it. We're going to do it we're going to do it for fun, or we're going to make something out of it. But it's not like we're just going to give up on it, because we actually believe in this product.
Absolutely. And like you mentioned, we both have these like grander dreams of going big. I'm a big Pat McAfee guy. And of course, he had the NFL background when he started his whole thing. But still, I mean, it's just him and his friends making a living talking sports. And at the end of the day, that's what you and I are. Some really good friends that enjoy talking sports. So if there is a medium for that, if there, I'd love to pursue that. You and I, when we were in college together, talked about doing something similar to this, where it was like, hey, let's buy a radio station and build our own little thing. And when we got up to here, I was like, you know what? We don't need to buy a radio station. We have a podcast. We can just start there.
We were making it harder than we needed to, man. We had the cool radio station thing, which would have been awesome. But this is online is your own station. I mean, internet,
100%.
The way things are now, and it's so much easier, so much more convenient. So I'm 100% all for it. And AJ Camacho said we should just start an OnlyFans. What's I don't know. I may have the body for it, but
I don't think I
know.
do.
I don't know if OnlyFans is going to be for our demographic.
I've got an idea.
Yeah,
we're still trying to grow Old Man Entertainment. AJ, if you want to join Old Man Entertainment and run our very own Old Man OnlyFans starring you, we are more than welcome to do that.
We're not stopping him. We're not going to stop him.
Hit me up after the show.
He can use our logo and everything. We can have an OnlyFans thing, and it can just be AJ and just questionable things going on. But he could make a good little profit off of that, I think.
Hey, AJ's a good looking dude. He got that tattoo. It's a nice tattoo.
Anyway,
let's stop talking about AJ. AJ, thanks for joining us, man. Jess, AJ also says happy birthday. So I got Jess sitting behind me. Let's get into things a little bit. So what we were referencing earlier, we have a very good friend from college. He's a big time podcaster. He just recently fired up his own live show. We're really excited to see him pursuing that. I really like his name's Andrew Zimmel. I really like him. He's from Bandera, which is from our area. Of course, he's right next door to where you're going to be living here pretty quick.
Yeah, you have no excuse. He has no Andrew. I think he's actually doing a podcast right now, but you have no excuse. You go back and listen to this. We're going to be like minutes from each other. So there really is no excuse for him not to hang out with me. Of course, he'll probably make up an excuse, but we'll be close.
But anyway, Andrew has his own podcast called the Andrew Zimmel Podcast, which is a great show. He's had some great interviews. One of my favorite podcast episodes I've listened to was his interview with Texas State quarterback Brady McBride a few months ago. Really enjoyed it. But I got a bone to pick with Andrew Zimmel today. He, in his most recent podcast, said some things about the Houston Astros that I don't appreciate. Don't appreciate it.
No.
I didn't. Basically, he said he kind of, I don't really know exactly, I don't remember 100% word for word what he said, but he was kind of justifying the whole pegging situation. He was getting on the Astros fans for being outraged about the pegging situation.
Oh, gosh.
And he just kind of took a dump on the Astros fan base. While, yes, they're a little rambunctious, I don't disagree. He tends to forget the Yankees fans are just as bad. And I'm just going to jump on the pegging situation, and we're going to start there, okay? The past week, the Astros played against the Royals in a pair of exhibition games, which were very promising if you're an Astros fan, and not so much if you're a Royals fan. So I don't want to try and take away too much from those games because the Royals are just really bad. So while the Astros did kind of whoop up on them, it's kind of expected because that's one of the worst teams in baseball versus one of the best teams. But in the second game yesterday, there were 3 Astro players hit by pitches. And the media took that and ran with it. I mean, just blew it up so much bigger than it was. And there was like SportsCenter was literally just saying Jorge Lopez pegged Altuve and Bregman in consecutive at bats, almost making it sound like he did it intentionally.
Yeah,
but
I'll answer Andrew's accusation that Astros fans are outraged at the pegging. It's not so much the pegging. The pegging happened with bases loaded. It actually resulted and helped us win the game. I don't care if our players get hit every game. If the Astros win every game, I'll take it. That's free base runners, free RBIs. I mean, it's super effective for us to win games. What we're upset about is the way the media covered it, which is what you're going to get into, is they covered it like, okay, the Astros got pegged, yada, yada. That's what happened. Oh, wait, what's the score? Oh, yeah, the Astros won 15-6.
15-6.
They destroyed the other team, and there was no cheating involved. They just happened to be that much better than the Royals, and I do admit the Royals are going to have a tough season.
They're very bad.
Year. But still, if the Astros – so say the Astros beat the Yankees, but the Yankees got some good pegs in, and they pegged Altuve and Bregman, what's the story on SportsCenter going to be then? Is it going to be the Yankees lost, or is it going to be the Yankees got some good pegs in? I'm confused. I'm wondering what the actual journalism has come to is my problem with this whole thing.
The media is going to run what's going to get them clicks. And at the end of the day, right now, shitting on the Astros is going to get clicks. It's going to get views. It's going to make you money. I saw a tweet earlier today that said ESPN has turned into for sports what MTV is for music. And I can't agree more. You don't go to ESPN anymore for reliable sports content, for updates. You don't go there anymore. For NBA, you go to Woj. For MLB, you go to Ken Rosenthal. I mean, you don't go to ESPN. I mean, so anything the ESPN says. And then Yahoo Sports came in, which I didn't even know Yahoo Sports was a thing. Saying they put a tweet about the Astros getting pegged 3 times. Let me break down those 3 pegs, right? And I don't know much about the third one because I wasn't watching when that one happened. But the first one was in like the 2nd or 3rd inning. It was Alex Bregman and Jose Altuve came up to bat first. Bases loaded. It is like 1-0 at this time. Bases loaded. Jorge Lopez is pitching. Pitch gets away from him, right? Pitch gets away from him. Doesn't hit Altuve very hard. I think it like either grazed his shoulder or might have even just kind of caught the jersey. Wasn't like he pegged him square in the middle of the back, right? So he just kind of grazed him. Bregman comes up. Jorge Lopez tries to throw, I think, a curveball or a slider. Gets away from him. Catches the front of the jersey right here of Alex Bregman.
That one didn't look bad at all.
It did not hit Bregman. It hit his jersey. It might have unloosened a button on his jersey.
Yeah.
So they went with that. Even though those 2 pegs not only were obviously unintentional, barely even hit the player, and cost the Royals runs in a 15-6 blowout, they just took those pegs, turned it into a story, turned it into a social media post, and ran with it to get them clicks. And obviously it worked because we're talking about it, but I'm afraid this is going to happen all season long. Like you just made a very good point. If the Astros play the Yankees and the Astros beat the Yankees 10-2, but the Yankees peg Bregman in the back in the 7th inning, that's going to be the story, not how bad the Astros won the game. Need I remind you, in the game yesterday, the guy who hit the grand slam, what was his name again? I believe it was...
it was...
Well, I could tell you that Taylor Jones homered, who is a very intriguing prospect, but he's not a major leaguer. He's not one of the key players. Taylor Jones homered.
Degotti homered.
Alex Degotti homered.
Degotti was the one I saw, but it was a 3-run homer. Yeah.
The no-names beat you. The no-names beat you. I don't think people realize how good this Astros team is.
The back of the bench players beat you. The ones that are like on the far end of the dugout that don't get to sit with the stars. Those are the guys that beat you.
Those are the guys that beat you.
Yeah.
And you're over here bragging about the pegs that weren't even really beans. Sure. You give up a homer to Bregman, and then Jordan comes up and you beat him in between the shoulders. That's a bad idea, by the way. Jordan will murder you. But let's say you do that.
Jordan's not the guy you'd want to hit.
Then you can be like, oh, yeah, man, we pegged him. Like, take that, Houston. Like, oh, we got him right between the shoulders. That's
the stupidity of Jordan getting pegged is astronomical. Dude wasn't even on the team in 2017. That's the problem with the Jordan. That I know they're not using brains, they're not using logic. I'm just telling you, people wishing for Jordan to get pegged. Come on, guys.
Or
really?
Brantley. Brantley's like one of the best dudes in baseball.
Brantley just showed up last year. Yeah.
He's just like an old uncle. He's Uncle Mike. Like, leave him alone. Like, I understand. The one guy that's probably going to get beat, he might break Biggio's record for hit by pitches, is Alex Bregman. Him and Lance McCullers,
he will.
They want all the smoke. They are there for it, and I love it. And I think that's got to be what Houston kind of embraces. They've got to be the new bad boys, us against the world.
Yeah, yeah, but the funny thing is, the media, they're the people who make the stories, right? I mean, the fans, they can talk about things on Twitter, they can kind of do their own narrative, but at the end of the day, ESPN, Fox Sports, whatever, they have a lot of influence and power. So the more it's kind of like the stories we see, the more they talk about the bad stuff, which in this case is players getting pegged. The more they talk about it, the more energy they give to it, the more people this hysteria, this anti-Astros hysteria is going to continue as long as the media keeps hammering it home. And we know why the media is doing this, because they're a bunch of Yankees and Dodgers fans. Sports Center came out recently with another prediction: Yankees and Dodgers in the 2020 World Series. Book it. They say it every year. You got West Coast, East Coast, book it. They're going. Buster Olney, same thing, same problem. Buster Olney, the season's about to start, and he's still taking jabs at the Astros. Last-minute jabs before the season starts. Let's go. I hope they get pegged. The Astros should get booed. It's a travesty.
Why it's a lose why we can't boo the Astros.
We can't boo the Astros. Oh, no.
And then they came out with that program
stupid.
where it's like, hey,
Yeah.
you can pump your own audio into the stadium. Like, Operation Boo
Astros.
Houston is back on. It's
Yeah. No, there's going to be a button in every PA system. There's going to be a button that's going to say Astros on it, and it's just going to be a bunch of boos, pre-recorded boos, and every stadium except Minute Maid's going to have it. It's going to be funny. I mean, it's going to be hilarious, and the Astros are going to win 12-3, 10-3, 15-6. Keep adding up. This is not an offense you want to give base runners to. I never understood. I know pegging, it's always been part of baseball, whatever. You have retaliation. You have moments where you really want to peg a guy. But in situations where the bases are loaded, or in certain games where it's close and it really doesn't make any sense, there's going to be some times where you give Astros that extra base runner and you're going to lose by that run because you let a guy get on base for free. It's the same thing I feel about intentional walks. I know intentional walks, they have their place. You can put a guy on base. It's strategy. But I never understood just willingly giving someone a base, especially when you're going up against the Houston Astros. They still have a great offensive team. You put someone on base, most likely that guy's going to score. I mean, that's my logic behind it. Don't you want to win games? Isn't that the best way to shut up the Astros, is to win games and beat them? Because as long as they keep winning, no one's going to stop. No one's going to stop chanting for the Astros, cheering the Astros. Astros fans are just going to get louder the more games we win. That's how you shut the Astros up, is you beat them.
And, I just had this thought cross my mind. You mentioned how it's Yankees-Dodgers a couple minutes ago. And that's all the media focuses on.
Yeah.
You remember when it was Yankees-Red Sox? The Yankees have gotten the Red Sox have gotten the raw end of the stick.
What happened
lately.
to them? Yeah.
Well, think about it. Astros busted for cheating. Red Sox, they get accused of cheating. MLB does their investigation. They bust them. They don't get hit as hard as Houston, but they did bust them. Then you look at New York, very obviously cheating. There's literally a letter saying they're cheating. And the Major League Baseball went out of their way to take legal action to keep that letter hidden. The letter that was very obviously going to prove the Yankees were cheating. Why didn't they do that for your Red Sox? The Red Sox are one of the oldest teams in the league. They've won a crap ton of World Series.
They've got history, yeah.
It's because they're not wearing pinstripes. It's because Rob Manfred didn't grow up a Yankees fan. He didn't grow up a Red Sox fan. He grew up a Yankees fan. Plus, here's another thing to think of. The Yankees' window to win championships is open right now. It is open right now, right? The Red Sox isn't. We can go ahead and hit the Red Sox. They're not going to win anything in the next few years. Their window's not open. But how dare we hurt the Yankees' chances? We can't let that happen. If we peg them, all of a sudden they can't afford Garrett Cole. If we peg them, all of a sudden they can't get all these high draft picks. They can't add guys like, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm getting at? Why?
No, I do.
The Yankee bias is so freaking blatantly obvious.
And you think Red Sox would have a say in that, but they don't. Like you said, even they don't. They're an historic franchise. They've been around. They're still a good team. I mean, they're still going to draw in a lot of numbers and viewers. That Boston fan base is strong. I mean, Boston as a sports city is probably one of my favorite cities because they have a strong sports
I do like
history
the Red Sox
and city. And I'm not going to sit here and just bash the Red Sox because, like you said, there's a lot of things I like about them. But as far as the Yankees go, and the Dodgers kind of get the same way. They got that LA thing going for them. I mean, this doesn't have anything to do with it, but it's just funny because you were just talking about the Red Sox and how their window has gone away. And then you see an old Red Sox player, Mookie Betts, just got an extent like 12 years contract with the LA Dodgers all the way across the coast. So you got the Dodgers building themselves up. You got the Yankees. They always find a way to get guys. I mean, but that's why it's so satisfying when teams like that lose. I know it's good for baseball, whatever, if the Yankees are competitive, the Dodgers are competitive. I guess it is. But my thing is, I like it where you got other teams that you don't normally see that are competitive. I mean, the Astros have made a run at things. Now they're kind of like expected to do good. But I like when teams out of nowhere show up and surprise people. And I'm hoping this 60-game season opens up a chance for other teams besides the superpowers that win. I wouldn't be mad if the Astros had a chance to win, but they didn't. And then another team that you don't expect wins it all. I would not be upset because this 60-game season, I'm kind of rooting for a wild card team to come out of nowhere and take it. Besides rooting for the Astros, I think it would be cool to have like a surprise team win it all.
Why don't we talk some actual baseball instead of talking about all the drama around baseball? What have you seen from the Astros so far? I think Lance McCullers looked so dominant the other day against the Royals, and of course it is the Royals. But think about the Royals; they do have some decent bats. They've got Hunter Dozier, who, by the way, he tested positive for COVID today. I don't know if you saw that. After playing back-to-back games against Houston, he tested positive. Now, the only Astros player that would have really been in danger of coming in touch with him because he didn't get on base and he plays the outfield was Martin Maldonado, who played catcher, and he came in clear today. So that's a good sign. But just a little side note, throwing that.
Well, also another side note with the COVID, Todd Callis, play-by-play guy for the Astros, he is tested positive, and he won't be there to start the season for the Astros. Blummer was tweeting about that, and Todd Callis made a little video. He's asymptomatic, and he seems to be fine as far as symptoms go, but testing positive means he's going to be out of the loop for a while. So this is we're going to see a lot of this, a lot of media people, a lot of people associated with baseball. It's not like the flu and you just kind of stay home and recover. They're going to have these COVID guys. They have to stay home for a set amount of days. I think it may even be like 7 to 14 days.
It's 2 weeks. Stay home. It's 2 weeks, and you've got to test negative like 3 times.
Well, yeah. So and testing's not fun either. Have you seen the testing? They jam it up your nose.
Well, so
it doesn't seem fun.
Colin McHugh did a video on Instagram before he opted out of the season where they're spitting into vials.
Okay, well that's better for them because you don't want them to get hurt
every 2 days.
That looks violent.
Can you imagine imagine that injury? Like that would go. You know, one of those books they have where it's like worst injuries ever, and we all know that Carlos Correa's rib injury with the massage thing is going in there. But can you imagine like you have a dude that misses like a month because he like did something to his nose up here during one of the tests?
Some nurse
doctor
or something
just put it too far in or something.
Just slid and got the brain.
Got the brain. No.
It looks painful, man. The spit thing needs to be a thing for everybody, I think, because the way they do it with the Q-tip up the nose, I had a friend do that, and I saw his video. He posted it on Facebook, and he was in tears, man. He's a tough guy, too. I mean, but he was in tears because that thing goes way up there. They swirl it around. It just doesn't look pleasant. But that's every day. Every time you test positive, that's what happens. You have to go through all those things. It's just a mess right now with COVID. So, and I think it's the same thing with all the sports, but it really is just something to note and keep up with.
Yeah, we can touch on the NFL struggle with that here in a little bit. But going back to the Astros, so like I said, Lance McCullers was sharp, which was really promising for me. He's going to be such a big part of the season. If you get that big three as sharp as they can be, there's not many teams that can beat us. So that was really promising. We're looking forward to seeing more of that from Lance McCullers. I had a little bit of just a brain freeze for a second there. What else did you see? The Astros, the back of that lineup looked really good. They got some really good at-bats from guys like Martin Maldonado and Josh Reddick. Really wasn't even the big guys. I guess Springer hit a homer to straightaway center. But other than that, Bregman hit the double. But really wasn't, the big guys doing damage. It was some of the back of the lineup, which is a good sign. Now, I know it was against the Royals, but overall, you have to feel good about those scrimmages, right?
Yeah, I do. I do feel good. I think I kept seeing, I think in both games there was a Springer dinger, if I'm not mistaken. I kept seeing that pop up. I know George Springer was all over everybody. his bats. He's always got those hot starts. We know Springer. He's
a
just the guy that's
streaky
gonna
hitter.
he's gonna have those hot starts, and if he can get going, that's great. The Alex Dugatti homer I saw recently. He didn't even get all of what he actually got an end of the bat and was able to power it over the left field wall in Kansas City. So he didn't even get a swing on that when I saw it. But then I also, going back to the game with McCullers, I'm glad he got the win. His game looked good, and I think just the nastiness of I think it was his two-seamer. I know he has a power. I know he has a curveball or a circle change.
So
he
throws a four-seam, a two-seam, a knuckle curve, and a change.
But
in the clip that you're referencing, where he said that's effing nasty, it was on his two-seamer low and away to Jorge
two-seamer. Yeah,
and
we know his off-speed stuff is good. We know his off-speed stuff is nasty. But the two-seamer moved. I mean, it was like going places, man. It was crazy. I don't know. I've seen two-seamers do some crazy things, but that two-seamer, if he can get that accurate and put it where he wants, I mean,
and pitch with that swagger,
you can't hit it. And he has the swagger. You know,
he's always had the swagger.
Yeah. So I'm excited. I'm excited about Lance McCullers. He's the guy. If you get him going, you've got the first two guys, Greinke, Verlander. After what Greinke came up at last year, he got to where I can trust him now. Verlander, always trusted him. McCullers gets back to his self. Woo! Astros, I mean, dang, you're going to have a tough time beating the Astros. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the fourth starter is going to become really important. The fifth starter is not going to be so bad. As long as we can get in the playoffs, you're not really going to use a fifth starter anyway. But that fourth starter is going to be important, whether it's Framber Valdez or Brad Peacock, Austin Pruitt, Josh James. That's going to be a Jose Urquidy whenever he comes back, which I really like him. That's going to be a big spot because you're more than likely, unless it's like let's say Verlander pitches game 1, they win game 2, they lose game 3. It's a best of 5 series. You might go back to Verlander for that game 4, right? To try and close
I would think so.
But if it's just 2-2 series game, best of 7, and you need a fourth start, I think having a go-to fourth starter is a big deal. Luckily, the Astros,
those long series,
and luckily the Astros have a plethora of right-handed pitching, so I think they'll be able to fill that spot. It's just a matter of finding those guys.
If you're up 3-1 in a series, it's not as important. But if you're like 2-2, or if you're just like, I mean, you're in the middle of it, and you know you're in a long series. That game 5 or whatever, or game 4 even is so important.
Game 5, Verlander would be ready again.
Yeah, if you're up 3-0 going into game 4, it's not as big of a deal. But if you're only 2-1,
or even if you're down 1-2, that's a huge game.
1-2 is even bigger deal. You need a guy that can come in and save your butt. So yeah, game 4 starters are important. I mean, people overlook them because I like to talk about the first 3 guys, but game 4 guy is going to be tough when the playoffs come around. But 60 games sprint to the finish line here. I mean, it's going to be starting Friday, man. I'm excited to see how this all plays out because teams are going to have to, like the Royals, they have a long way to go. They're going to struggle. But there's some teams that are going to have to start out hot, and I like the way that even though it's spring training, I like what I'm seeing from the Astros. They're not wasting any time. I mean, I would feel a lot worse if the Astros were the team that got beat 15-6 than they do in the beating 15-6, even though it's spring training. People say it doesn't mean anything. I think these spring training games against the Royals, I think they actually did mean something. And I think the fact the Astros took advantage of the situation and creamed them, I think that means the Astros are ready to play. And they're going on a revenge tour. They know what people are saying outside of Houston. That they have social media. They're smart guys. They know how the situation goes. They know how the Yankees are getting a cover up and the Astros aren't. If the Astros take this underdog, us against the world mentality, they're going to be very hard. They're going to be a tough team to beat again.
Absolutely. I think that's enough MLB talk for today. We got to get on to some other stuff. Faye Ray, another good show, guys. Thank you.
There we go.
We appreciate it. We're doing our best. We're having a good time today. So appreciate you tuning in. Let's move to some NFL talk. We mentioned it a couple minutes ago. The PFT Power Rankings came out this week. Of course, the PFT Power Rankings is a pretty respected source of NFL stuff, NFL rankings. It's almost kind of like what's the name of it for baseball? Sabermetrics, or what's the website?
Mm-hmm.
I am drawing a blank. But there's a really good baseball website, kind of similar where they do a lot of these kind of stats. We've got the power rankings up right now. Cowboys are really low. They're down at 12. Houston's at 17. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are all the way up at 6. That is way higher than I thought they were going to be, but I mean, there's a lot of hype around them. Some other interesting ones: Buffalo Bills at 9. Philadelphia Eagles at 10, which I don't know how they'd be higher than Dallas, but take that for what you will. Baltimore at 3. New England is still pretty high at 4, even though they're
What do you think about New England? New England coming in at 4 with Cam Newton. I mean, they have Cam Newton, but I still don't think that puts you at 4.
I'd put them in the maybe 8 or 9 around the Titans, Buffalo Bills. Maybe below maybe switch the Bills to the Titans and put the New England just below Buffalo.
I think Buffalo wins that division, AFC East. I've said it as soon as the Patriots lost Brady. I said the Buffalo Bills are winning that division. I know Josh Allen isn't 100% trustworthy, but he's going to get better. I'm surprised Buffalo is not ahead of the Patriots. I mean, I like them at 9, but the Patriots at 4 just kind of surprises me. I mean, I understand the Saints; they're still very high. That makes sense. You have the Super Bowl champs and the challengers, Chiefs and 49ers, at the top. I'm upset about the Texans coming in at 17. I think they're better than the Colts, and I actually do think they finish. I actually do think they finish better than the Colts. And the Titans, I think they actually split the season series with the Titans. I'd put the Titans down some and move the Texans a little bit further up. I just don't have a lot of faith in. I know Tannehill had a great season and Derrick Henry's still a monster, but the way the Texans handle the AFC South most years, even when they have like bad coaching, they still seem to beat the AFC South teams. So for me, it's hard to see the Colts and the Titans ahead of the Texans. So I don't know. And the Cowboys being all the way down at 12, you have the Eagles ahead of the Cowboys. That doesn't make sense to me either. There's a lot of things to poke at. You have the Eagles at 10 and the Cowboys at 12. To me, that doesn't add up.
Eagles and the Steelers higher.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't know how I feel about that. The Dallas is a really good team. They got highlights playing right now. Now, I don't know what the situation's going to be with Dak, but he's going to play this year, so you've still got your quarterback. That defense is one of the best in the league. That linebacking core is arguably the best in the league. I mean, maybe not Seattle. They got Bobby Wagner. But, I mean, you got a highlight of Michael Gallup running on the field right now. I mean, you got Michael Gallup. You got Amari Cooper. You add what's his name? The new kid. The Oklahoma guy. I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. But you have.
Oh, yeah.
You're adding him. I mean, Zeke's back.
I know who you're talking about.
That O-line's pretty much the exact same. I mean, other than Travis Frederick. So. I don't understand how they're ranked so low. I genuinely thought they were at least a top 10 team. I just maybe it's their lack of playoff success that's keeping them lower. But I just thought they were at least a top 10 team. I'd put them. Let me pull up the power rankings again.
CD Lamb.
CD Lamb. I'd put them over Pittsburgh. I'd put them over Philadelphia. I'd put them. It's hard to count out Russell Wilson.
Yeah, Seattle for me. I understand. I mean, I really do like Seattle, but there's a lot of things I don't like about this list. But the funniest thing to me is, if we're talking about humor, is the fact that at 32 you just have Washington, no name, just Washington.
Just Washington.
They're trying to figure out what the name's going to be, and you can't put the Redskins because that's offensive. So they made sure just to put Washington. Now listen. The Redskins have been offensive for a long time. I'm not going to say they haven't been, but the fact that you can't even put a PFT power rankings, you can't still put the Redskins, because as of right now, they don't have a replacement name. They're still the Washington Redskins until a replacement name gets approved. So for me, why can't you just go ahead and write the name out? I mean, you might as well just get rid of all these names. They all have something. I'm offended of Bengals. They scare me. Tigers, they can hurt you. Giants, that's offensive to people who are tall.
Short.
I can go down the list. Of all Chiefs. Chiefs. That's a bad name. That's an Indian. That's a type of Indian, I think. Chiefs. So I mean, that's offensive to me as well. The Kansas City Chiefs. We just need to go by city names and stop doing all this bull crap with these names. Because I mean, if you work hard enough, you can find something offensive about all these names. But it's just funny to me. And the LA Rams. I mean, didn't they used to be on top of the world, and now they're all the way down at 23. It's funny how far the Rams have.
They were in a Super Bowl not
fallen.
that long. 2018. They were in a Super Bowl.
Isn't that crazy how bad they are now?
And now they're in
23.
the back half. That's rough. And they have such a good coach too.
Yeah, Sean McVay. I
Sean
thought
McVay
he was
is such a good.
I mean,
coach.
he is a genius. I will admit, I do like him. But
it's really, you're right there.
Yeah.
It's really surprising to see them so far down. What do you think of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? I've been a Buccaneers fan for a while. They've been my number 3 team. I put them behind the Texans. Ever since when I was younger, I used to watch a lot of America's Game, which is a Super Bowl documentary, and I watched the 02 Bucks, which had John Lynch, they had Warren Sapp, they had, what was his name, Derek Brooks.
That was a fun team.
Mike Allstott, man, one of the most just entertaining teams. Had no passing game. Well, they developed one later in the year, but to start the year they really didn't. Brad Johnson was their quarterback. They had Keyshawn Johnson. Really fun team. So I just kind of fell in love with Tampa Bay after watching that. I've kind of followed them for a long time, but it's been rough. It's kind of been like being an Orioles fan. Sorry, Bill.
Bill Cohen.
Sorry, Bill Cohen. But they're on the up and up. They're ranked, according to PFT, they are the 6th ranked team, better than Seattle, better than Buffalo, better than Philly, better than Dallas, better than Minnesota, better than Indianapolis. I mean, they were a decent team last year. They had some really crazy passing numbers. They've got Mike Evans, which is one of the best wide receivers in the league.
Are you getting it where you think they're actually too? Because I'm buying into the Buccaneers hype. Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. I mean, their offense is going to be fine. As far as defense goes, I don't think I trust it that much.
They've got a pretty solid defense, but
they've gotten Ndamukong Suh too as well. They added him.
I wouldn't put him over Seattle. I wouldn't put him over Buffalo. I'd probably put him pretty even with Dallas. I'd put him pretty even with Dallas.
See, Dallas should be higher. Dallas should just be higher. I mean, I think Buccaneers are in a spot they should be. I just think Dallas should be jumping a lot of teams. I really do. But I think Tom Brady, I will say the NFC is up for grabs. The NFC is definitely up for grabs. I'm not locking in a certain team like I am Kansas City for the AFC. The NFC is up for grabs. But I do think the NFC South is going to be tough. The NFC South is going to be really tough with the Saints, with the Buccaneers. I don't really care for the Falcons or Panthers. I can leave or take them. I know the Falcons usually have so much talent, but they always just seem to disappoint. So I don't really put a lot of faith in the Falcons. But as far as the Buccaneers and Saints go, that's going to be some epic battles between Drew Brees and Tom Brady. And I still think Tom Brady's got one magical thing left in it. I think he can not win the Super Bowl, but I think he can win the division, make a little noise in the playoffs, and maybe make it to a NFC championship game. I really do think that.
Absolutely. What do you think about the NFL canceling preseason? Because I know that a lot of the older, more established guys hate the preseason, but it's such a big part of the game.
Have they done that? I'm just not hearing about that.
They officially canceled all preseason games. They agreed to it yesterday.
Wow.
So here's the thing on that. The older established guys, like I was saying, really hate the preseason. They see it as an unnecessary game. They see it as a chance to get hurt. But if you look at the younger guys, it's really important for them. The NFL doesn't have a minor league. It doesn't have a G League. This is guys, the undrafted guys, the guys battling for special team spots. This is a really important time for them. And I don't know if they're not doing it this year. What if this becomes permanent? Because I know that there's a lot of players that really don't like the preseason games. What is your opinion on that?
And it might be a thing where it does come permanent, because I only hear negative things from the players about preseason games. Now, I'll take it for granted. You only follow the players that are good, that have already secured their roster spot. So like you hear from the guys who are already safe, that don't need preseason, that in fact, if they played in preseason, it might actually hurt their chances because they may get hurt. They may tear an ACL. Their season may be ended. We've seen that before, especially with offensive linemen, where they roll an ankle or they break a leg or tear an ACL, and it's before the season even started, because you're battling in those trenches. You're trying to battle with people who are desperate, that don't have a job, and they're willing to go full out 100%. Some of these older guys, they don't go 100% in preseason. They may go like 75, 50%. You see that they don't try as hard. Players do, some players don't, but most players don't try as hard if they already know they have a roster spot. It does hurt, however, if you're trying, because right now it's what it says. The NFLPA agrees to no preseason games, 80-man training camp roster. How do you cut the 80-man training camp roster from 80 to 53 without preseason games? How do you scrap those guys? Because you can't, because I don't care how hard you practice. It's an old football
It's not the
saying.
same.
It's always friendly fire. Yeah, you're not the same. You put the pads on. You play in games. Coach David Jones would always say this. It's always nice to hit other people, right? It's always nice to hit another team. You walk up on Fridays, in high school, you're getting ready. That week you're preparing to go hit somebody else. You're hitting a different jersey. My coach would always say, it's always good to get the color of someone else's jersey on your helmets because it means you're hitting somebody else. You're not hitting your friends anymore. You're hitting someone you don't know. You're playing for your team. It's such a mental thing, too, when you're going up against somebody else because it really is us versus them. You kind of get that adrenaline going. You don't get that in practice. You don't get those in-game situations. I don't care how much you practice. Practice is great. Don't get me wrong. But you have to play games. And even if it's preseason, even if it's just scrimmaging, even if it's just or not scrimmaging as much, but even if it's just like preseason where they don't go as hard, I still think it's a necessity in order for coaches to properly evaluate the talent. They have to get in a real game and they have to see these guys go against real teams, other teams with other people where the stakes are higher and it's not just practice. You got to go mano-a-mano and find out if they can actually hold their water in an actual real game. So preseason is important, I think, as far as coaching goes. As far as players go, awesome. You guys skate by. If you make the 80-man training camp roster, and as long as you practice well, you're fine. But you and I both know, Reed, we've played sports enough and we watch sports. There's players who can practice really well who suck on game day.
Absolutely. I mean, maybe they can develop like an opt-out system for some players. So like the older guys, they opt out of the preseason games.
Smart.
And then that allows you to maybe they can open up the amount of preseason roster spots so you can have more undrafted players. You can give more guys a chance. And then you just have to do a bigger cut. But at the end of the day, I mean, that gives the older guys what they want, and you still give younger guys a chance to play. Plus, you can still get the money from ticket sales off preseason games because a lot of people like to go to those games. It's NFL, it's football. They're still going to go. So that might be something to look into in the future. But it's very obvious that – go ahead.
NFL fans, they have to wear masks now if they go. So they have to wear masks to the game.
Well,
and
I hate to break it to you, buddy, but that's going to become a thing at every game.
Well, I know it is sad, but I mean, I understand it. But I mean, you might as well just not even go because when you're going to a game and you're yelling and you're eating and drinking, you don't want to be wearing them, having to keep taking your mask off because part of going to a football game is you're drinking, you're yelling, you're having fun. You don't want to be sitting there with a mask the whole time. So why do you have fans at all if you're going to make them wear a mask? I just don't see the point.
Another league that is not having fans at their games is the NBA.
Bubble, they just got rid of fans altogether.
A lot of MLB teams are doing the same. I think they've kind of said stuff like they're going to allow it later on in the season, but right now, no fans, just cardboard cutouts, which that's kind of silly. But moving on to the NBA, their bubble's actually been working. I think they had like 0 positive tests the other day. One thing that has been
Russell Westbrook came back.
I'm
saying Westbrook. For the Rockets fans out there like me, Westbrook came back to the bubble. Harden's in the bubble. So the Rockets team is a full go. There are some teams struggling getting their players to the bubble, though. Like, for example, I know I shared something earlier in the group chat about their Los Angeles Clippers, who we saw the Clippers. They're up in the rankings as a really good team in the Western Conference. And there's actually currently have 4 players out of the bubble right now. And these guys are actually pretty good players. Patrick Beverley, their starting point guard. Montrezl Harrell, a guy they put it forward. I think he even plays some center. Ivica Zubac, give or take. And Landry Shamet, who is pretty good, but still, Patrick Beverley and Montrezl Harrell are the 2 big guys I'm looking at. And seeding games. So playing for position, they start in 9 days. Seeding games start in 9 days, which is July 31st, I believe, is when the actual games start to count. And you're battling for seeding in the playoffs. If these guys don't come back to the bubble quick, they won't be able to play because you do have to have a 14-day. It's like the MLB. you have to have a 14-day period where you can't play. So if these guys don't come back quick, they're going to miss all the seeding games. They may get back in time for the playoffs, but that's like half their team. And the Clippers are a team battling for the NBA championship. So it's obviously a message being sent by these players that right now they're more concerned about their family and health, which is a good thing, rather than playing basketball. I think that's going to be a trend you see later on. If someone tests positive in the bubble, you're going to see a lot of players just pull out for safety reasons, and the season could go south really quick. I'm hoping it doesn't, but if the bubble gets infected or breached, you can see this whole thing go up in flames.
Well, at the end of the day, in every single league, and in the NFL, the MLB, the NBA, the teams that can keep their cases down and keep their players on the field are going to have the most success. Because we talked about this in one of the other shows where, say, the Kansas City Chiefs get back to the Super Bowl, or the Los Angeles Lakers, they reach the finals. It's Game 7. All of a sudden, LeBron James tests positive. He's not going to be able to play for Game 7. That's a big deal. And that's something that they're going to have to be able to fix and figure out. And the teams that can avoid situations like that, or, where it's a big game week, it's like week 14, you really need playoff positioning for the Dallas Cowboys, and Dak Prescott tests positive. Teams that can avoid stuff like that, the teams that can keep the cases down, are going to be the teams that have the most success. And that's just the way it's going to be.
I think some players are going to just choose not to show up either. There may be some
you
players.
Were just talking, that's already happened.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, in every sport, which is crazy, because I don't think these guys are sick in the NBA. I think they're just choosing not to. They're just choosing not to play, which is fine. I respect the heck out of that. But if that happens with certain teams, even teams that have something to play for, players are like, I'd rather stay home and take care of myself, which is not selfish, by the way. I 100% back that. You take care of yourself.
Take care of yourself and your family.
It's just interesting times we live in. I mean, as sports fans, did you ever think a virus would knock out this much of a season? If you went into, sports media is an interesting time right now. I know it must be stressful for you guys, but covering
I finally
sports
got
right
to
now
fill out like a full month of stuff, and I'm
awesome.
So excited.
Because you guys are still having football, right?
Yeah,
Snyder?
So the UIL released an announcement earlier this week where basically 5A and 6A schools have to wait.
That's Kerrville.
We'll have to
wait.
They have to
We're
wait
still gonna play
until like late September to start football, volleyball. Yeah. But 1A through 4A, which the three schools that I cover, there two of them are 1A and one of them is 4A, they can all start on time. Now, it still really matters county by county. There's a lot of counties that aren't letting them do anything until like late September. Scurry County is not one of those, but things could change. But I'm excited that things are going to get back to normal in some fashion. I'm sure the guys and the gals over there at Snyder High School and Ira and Hermley are really excited to get going. And
I'll make a case for. I know obviously you don't have a choice if you're 5A or 6A. You have to wait. But I'm going to make a case for like the younger schools or the littler schools. It's awesome that, first of all, the kids are going to get back to some normalcy and the football, and just like, because for those guys, especially if you're senior, you don't want to have to miss your senior year of football. This could be the last time they play
ever
organized sports ever. It is so important. Imagine if your senior year of football just got yanked away from you, or baseball or whatever. That would suck. That would be miserable. Yeah.
So those are some of the happiest, memories, is just thinking back to not even the games, just like the practice,
just messing around in the locker room,
being with those guys, you know, and that camaraderie. And I just can't imagine that being, you're a senior, you put the whole off season, you're working your tail off. I can think of one Snyder kid in particular. I'm not going to say his name, but you put in all this work. You've battled through all the COVID stuff. You've not being able to go to the gym, not being able to do summer workouts. You've stayed ready. You get to the game. And all you get to for like late July, you're getting ready to fire up, and then things get taken away from you. That would just be, even like this past season when baseball was playing. Snyder baseball they only had like 2 seniors, but still, like the Ira Bulldogs, which is the one of the 1A schools, was a state contender. They were really good. They had 7 seniors. They were going to be a really good team. They only got to play in like one tournament, and then they had it all ripped away.
That's sad. That's even sad when you start and then it gets ripped. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I just can't imagine that. But anyway.
Just speaking of the brotherhood you connect in the locker room, I have a guy, for example, I played 1 season with him. He was a senior, I was a sophomore. Didn't really think he even knew me, and on Facebook I commented, that I might need some help unpacking and stuff. And he just said, well, I live close to those apartments. I'll come by Friday and help you unload. I'm like, dude, I didn't even know you knew I existed / cared that much about me. He's a guy I played football with for one season, barely talked to him, but because we both played for the same high school football team, he's helping me out. That's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's a cool story. But anyway,
Yeah.
let's wrap up the show on a fan suggested topic. Adam Smith, a good friend of ours. That's his last name, right? I got that right. Adam Smith.
No, Adam Smith.
Yeah,
he goes by Adam J. Smith on Facebook,
Okay.
but Adam Smith is his
Wanted to
name.
make sure I got his last name right. He I don't know if he's listening or not, but he suggested we talk about our favorite sports movies. So guys, just so you know, if you want to hear something, a topic, if you want to, hear us talk about something, leave it in the comments, leave it in the live chat, tweet at us. We'd love to talk about it.
Yeah, Facebook, Twitter, anything. Reach out.
Adam suggested it to us on Facebook, and he said he wanted to hear what was our favorite sports movies. So I'm actually really interested to see what yours is. Mine, I'm a baseball guy. I love The Rookie. I think it personifies.
That's a good one.
I think it personifies what baseball's all about.
That was almost mine.
I think it personifies what baseball's all about. He's an older teacher. He was coming up out of Texas. It's based
Dennis
off Quaid,
right? Dennis Quaid was the actor.
The player is Jim Morris. He's played by
knocks
Dennis
it out
Quaid.
of the park.
Oh, he does so good.
Yeah.
So basically, for those of you that don't know the movie, which I'm sure you have at some point, he comes up in a high school, big pitcher, blows out his arm, so he can't pitch. He goes back to Big Lake, Texas, which is it's a real town. It's a real story. Becomes a science teacher and baseball coach. He's like 30 years old, and his team is struggling, so he tries to give them some kind of incentive. And the kids say, apparently he starts throwing to the kids in practice, and the kids are like, yo, you throw hella hard. So he's throwing like 92, he gets all the way up to like 96, which is at the time when he played, that was rare air. Like there were like very few guys. Nowadays 96 is almost like slow, but it's like, and not slow, but that's pretty commonplace. You have guys reaching 98, 99 normally, but so he comes up and his kids say, well, hey, if we win district, will you go to a tryout? And he says, yeah, fine. So he goes to the tryout. Long story short, he goes to the tryout, makes the team, works his way up to the minor leagues, and makes his major league debut at like 30, 32 years old, in that range. And I think he played a couple years for the Rays, and I think he pitched for the Giants as well. Just a really cool story. I think the movie is made by Disney, and they do a fantastic job. Like you said, Dennis Quaid knocks it out of the park. It's just one of my favorite all-time movies. I love baseball, and that movie just captures everything great about baseball all in one, and I just really like it. But
well, you went baseball, you went Rookie, which almost I actually do. The two I went with baseball. I mean, obviously, I felt like throwing out Sandlot would be cheating because everybody loves
the
Sandlot.
It's
generic.
It's up there. It's generic.
It's so generic. It's just one of the things. But you said Rookie. Rookie was one that I loved because I love Dennis Quaid. I almost went that one. I don't know if you saw Rookie of the Year.
That's a good one too.
It's a good one too. It's about a little boy who gets in an arm accident, and he plays for the Cubs, and so he hurts his arm, and he's like 12 years old, and he catches a ball in the outfield, and it's like, and everyone's saying, throw it back. And because of his arm accident, he's afraid to throw it, but then he just winds up and throws it, and he throws like a strike from like center field or left field or whatever, right down the middle, and people are like, oh, wow, this kid can actually throw. So he gets recruited by the team, and it's obviously not based on a real story. It's just a fun show.
It's just a fun
movie. But and it was in 1993. It was a cool one. But that's not the one I went with because I remember I actually did like this one, and I almost skipped it up. But Like Mike, it's 2002. It's a little bit more my time frame because Rookie of the Year was 1993, so I wasn't even born yet. But I do remember watching it and thinking it was cool. This kid could throw super hard. But Like Mike is a 14-year-old hoops-loving Calvin Cambridge. He's an orphan, played by Little Bow Wow. He has a dream to be a famous basketball player, and he mixes it up with some NBA's greatest players. There's a lot of players in it. Tracy McGrady's in it, Dikembe Mutombo, Allen Iverson, Vince Carter. You see a lot of like NBA players in it, and it's basically like an orphan. So how the movie starts is he's getting picked on by a bully, and he's like fed up. He he tries to go up for a layup, and this guy just blocks his shot, and he's all depressed or whatever. But then there's a storm that night, and it electrocutes some sneakers. There's some basketball sneakers on a wire. They get electrocuted, and then the inside the sneakers, it has the word MJ in there. So supposedly the legend is they're Michael Jordan sneakers. They got hung on the wire. There was an electrocution. It actually made it to where when he put the sneakers on, he had Michael Jordan's powers, and he could play
powers like he's some kind of superhero.
Yeah, he could play like Michael Jordan. No, it was awesome. I love this. I watched it so many times growing up. I watched this one in Rookie of the Year because it was about kids that got some sort of power, and they were able to like be professional athletes, which was, when you're younger, that's your dream. You want to play sports. Yeah,
for sure.
So I identified a lot with that. It had some pretty good actors in there. I mean, it had Morris Chestnut, had Jonathan Lipnicki, who actually he plays on some other things too. He actually played on Stuart Little. He was the little kid in that. And he also played on Tom Cruise, the Tom Cruise movie that he was in as well. But he's pretty cool. Jesse Plemons plays in it. He's also a cool actor. I like him. He's on Breaking Bad and things like that. Of course, Allen Iverson. You had all kinds of like superstars that were in it, and Brenda Song was in it too. She's London Tipton on Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. If you're Sweet Life of Zack and Cody fan, she was in the movie too. There was a lot of cool little actors in that movie, but I think Like Mike is going to have to be my favorite because I remember I watched it. I just watched it all the time. They tried to make a sequel. It wasn't near as good because you didn't have the same guys. It was like a completely different story, but just the fact that first off, the soundtrack, the music in that whole thing was great. And it was just about a kid that had superpowers and was able to play basketball really well. And it was a cool little movie. So I liked both of those.
It seems like such a simple question. What's your favorite sports? There's so many good sports movies. Miracle on Ice is so good.
Miracle, that's a great one. That's based
Miracle
on
on Ice, yeah. Major Leagues. I really only like the first one. The second one's kind of silly, but Major Leagues, there's so many good ones. I mean, obviously The Sandlot. You'd be remiss if you didn't Remember the Titans is just goated.
Yeah.
So many really good ones.
Denzel Washington. Yeah, you had to mention that too.
Man,
and there's another one there's one with Samuel L. Jackson as a coach too. He's a basketball coach, but it's a good one.
I'm drawing.
I'll look it up as you close things out. I'll look.
Yeah, get the name on that one. But man, another great show in the books. We appreciate y'all tuning in. We really do appreciate everybody that comes out to the live shows and interacts with us. And thank you, Adam, for giving us that topic. For those of you listening on YouTube, make sure to drop us a like. It really helps the show. Subscribe to the channel.
Coach Carter,
Coach
2005.
Carter. Coach Carter. That was it.
Based on a true story as well. It was about the first all-black team. Very good story.
Channing Tatum's in it.
A lot like Remember the Titans. You had some black players coming in, and Channing Tatum was a white player on the team, but then he ended up getting to like the finals or whatever, and he said, I'm going to do something nothing's ever been done. I'm going to play all black players. And even the white players on the team were like, yeah, do it. Because it's more than just a game at that point. That's pretty cool. Talking about racial inequality, Coach Carter's a good movie. People need to go back and watch. Remember the Titans as well. Those are both great movies.
I believe Coach Carter is on Netflix. So
you can probably just pull it up right now.
If you haven't seen it, go check that out.
Yeah.
But that's going to do it for us today, Parker. Really good show.
Right.
We had some really great topics to talk about. Like I said, for those of you listening on Spotify or iTunes, make sure to give us a rating. Let us know what we're doing right. Let us know what we're doing wrong. We'd really appreciate it.
Please feedback.
Let us know what you like about the show, what you don't like. That's been another episode of the 1203. Next time you see us, I'll be in the same room. But Parker will have moved into his new apartment. We talked about that at the beginning of the show, so that'll be exciting to see what your setup looks like. That'll be fun.
I'm ready.
That'll be fun. Thanks again, and we will see y'all next week.